There are brands out there, and there are different brands. The question I have today for all of us is, how do we create brands that go beyond being different? You know, there's a textbook guideline that everybody tells you when you're trying to create a brand. They tell you to be different, yes. They tell you to be consistent, yes. They tell you to develop a very clear brand voice, yes. Now, the problem with that is that, yes, it may be all right, and maybe the right thing to do, but when everybody's trying to be different by following those 3 guidelines, at the end of the day, you're no more different than your neighbor. I'll put this image on the screen, and if every shape is to represent a brand in the marketplace, even though they all may be different, not one shape really jumps out to you. So how do we create a brand that does jump out at you? That's what we're going to talk about. Again, when everyone else is being different, different doesn't exist anymore. So how can brands go beyond different? Well, first off, you have to forget about your product. Forget about the product you have, forget about the service, and start thinking about the people. Start talking to people and start connecting with people. Make sure that you can have that relationship between a brand and the people that your brand's trying to serve. I mean, there's a 2-step process that we're going to talk about today. First off, it's about making connections, how we can connect as a brand, and secondly, how we can cultivate. How can we cultivate movements, ideas, and whatnot to power a brand out there. So with connections, powerful branding is making connections. And making connections is how we can relate ideas, emotions, and thoughts to really hit people and really resonate with them. So I'll throw a few words up here. You know, I have ideas, trust, conversation, interaction, and this is how brands can really get out there and talk to people. And you don't, the most powerful brands out there, you don't see them as a company. You see them, if you think about it, you see them as a friend. A friend can call up, invite out to a movie, and that's really what the powerful brands are doing out there. There's somebody you can hug, somebody you can talk to, and those are what powerful brands are. So, connections through emotion. This is just one sample. We'll talk about a company that does this really well, Coca-Cola. And they've chosen a connection to connect through emotion. And with their advertising, we'll look at what they did. So here's a print ad they started off with a while ago. And in this image, the Coca-Cola bottle is so small, but the scene is so big. The scene is Santa Claus, which, by the way, Coke made as being red. It was a different color before. And there's a little girl there poking out Santa Claus. And there's a really powerful feeling in there. There's a really powerful emotion. That emotion is happiness. And then we'll look at other advertisements. You know, a gentleman being sprayed by a friend or family member outside enjoying the Coke. But it's that enjoyment. It's that fun. It's that joy and happiness that they've really stressed in their advertising. Also, Coca-Cola has done a lot of great stuff for the Vancouver 2010 torch run, some other Olympic stuff. So with the torch run, I mean, I witnessed it. I think some other you guys have witnessed it as well. And the one idea that resonated with me when I left that torch run was happiness and joy. And then we look at these all collectively, and what we see here, we add them all up, is that emotion of happiness, that emotion of joy. I was actually talking to the vice president of Coca-Cola a few weeks ago, and he showed me a couple advertisements, some TV spots they ran. And I asked him, I asked Nikolai, I said, aren't all these advertisements, aren't they all trying to just boost the brand recognition of Coca-Cola? And he told me I must have been living under a rock because not everybody knew about Coca-Cola. But I looked deeper into this, and then I realized that it was the emotion. It was the feeling of joy, and that's why their slogan, Open Happiness, exists. Moving on now, we're going to connect through voice. How do brands make connections through the brand voice? I think a company that really does this well is Virgin, the Virgin Group. And I mean, yes, it is partly Sir Richard Branson that really built the brand. I don't think without Richard Branson, you wouldn't have the brand Virgin as powerful as it is today, because it's so outgoing, and he does that everywhere he goes through media interviews and whatnot. But looking at the company Virgin Group, and if we look at what they do and what they offer, yes, I know they had an airline. Yes, I knew they had Virgin Airlines America. But I didn't know they had all of this. And the only way they can be so successful with operating with so many services and products is by having one really small and consistent brand voice. And they'd always stay with that voice. Now, what is their voice? Well, here's a quote from Sir Richard Branson. This is what he said. I believe the Virgin brand for many people now stands for a lifestyle choice that sums up our core brand values of fun, innovation, and value for money, and it attracts people who appreciate and demand great customer service. Now, there are some words I want to point out there because lifestyle choice, that's the choice you make when you choose a Virgin Group product. You're not choosing because of the brand, but you're choosing because of yourself and who you are as an individual. Fun, I mean, every one of their products, they used to offer hot air balloon rides in Europe. And I think every product and service that they offered, they always had that feeling of fun they wanted to bring through every single one of their products. Innovation, they had an entrepreneurship competition. Whenever you buy a meal on board one of their aircrafts, I believe you can actually swipe a card and you can offset the carbon emissions from that flight. And then the value for money, right? They have that budget-friendly mind that really does appeal to a lot of people. But these bolded words that are in Richard Branson's quote, these are the values that Virgin Group stands behind. And these values created Virgin's brand voice. Whenever you have a really strong set of values, you don't have to worry about your voice. It's already created. So, the second thing I want to talk about today is cultivation. How brands can cultivate by creating a movement with the goal of marketing your brand. This term is actually, the term movement marketing was termed by somebody called Scott Goodson, who's actually born in Montreal. And movement marketing is really where I think the future is going to go towards. What I mean by movement marketing and what I mean by cultivation is how brands are creating movements that are fueled by ideas, emotions, and just cultural events that can really fuel and market the brand. How do we see this happen? Well, here's an example. Volkswagen, they had an idea that they wanted to market, and what was happening is that back in the 1960s in the United States, you had the American dream really publicized. Bigger is better, bolder is better, have a big gas-guzzling car, a big boat you can drive down the street and hit everybody else when you turn in right. And people didn't, yes, that was a stereotype in the United States of the day, the American dream, and not everybody wanted to fit into that stereotype. So what Volkswagen did, I mean, when America looked like this, they went out there and in a magazine where it was all busy, cluttered design, a lot of colors, they wanted to go against the stereotype of bigger is better. They wanted to push out a product that would really stir stuff up, break all the rules that were happening in terms of what everybody was doing in America. So they created an advertisement in a magazine that looked like this. This advertisement really stirs stuff up. You had a slightly off-centered small Volkswagen Beetle set on a neutral gray background with the words, think small. When everybody was going big, they wanted to think small. And this really, really pushed Volkswagen to the success they have today. Secondly, I think Porter Airlines has really established, they've really gone the opposite way every other airline was going. We looked at what everybody else is doing. This is a photo I pulled off the internet of, I think it was a budget airline in Europe that was trying out standing seats. I mean, I look at this photo and it looks pretty uncomfortable if you ask me. I mean, who wants to stand for a whole flight? So what Porter Airlines did is they reinvented flying in a way that brought back the luxury to flying. When everybody else hated flying because it was a chore, it was an annoying chore, they made it comfortable again. They made it refined. And I mean, you look at how they got extra legroom in their chairs, and then even how they brought back onboard meals to short-haul flights. You get a whole meal on a 45-minute flight. It'd be better than some of the other airlines would do when you're flying across the country. And if you look at their marketing, look at the left side, you have the raccoon, Mr. Porter, and everything they've marketed wasn't necessarily about flying, but it was about the experience. It was about the feeling you'd get and why you'd fly as an individual, because you wanted to enjoy flying again. That's the movement they created, the movement towards luxury flying, and that really brought them to success. So we've talked about brand values and how that can build a brand voice, as we see in Virgin Group. And now we're going to talk a little about brand touch points. And this is a process you're going to see filled up at the end, but brand touch points are pretty much wherever you experience that brand, whether that's the packaging, an event you go to about the brand. Every time you experience that brand, that's the brand touch point. So how do we build powerful brand touch points? Well, here's some examples, events, social media, customer service, visual identity. And let's say you associated a green triangle. Go back to my shape example earlier on. And let's say you associated a green triangle as a feeling you got, as the vibe you got, as the voice that every touch point of your brand would communicate. What happens is that when you have that green triangle present in every single touch point, when you have the same brand voice present through every single touch point, you create a powerful brand. The idea that's consistent, and bold in somebody's idea, somebody's head. And that's when you can really relate your feelings and thoughts to a powerful brand. But if you're not doing that, if you're confusing people, if you're having your touch points with a different brand voice, a too cluttered brand voice, a brand voice that doesn't really know what it is, it's too confused, well, then you're going to have an undefined brand. That's when you have all these different shapes in there. People don't really know what to think about you as a company. People don't know what to think about you as a brand. And then you get confused. So, brand voice through your brand values, and make sure you bring that brand voice into every single touch point, and you make sure it's consistent. That will build a positive customer experience. And a positive customer experience is essentially what people think about your brand and what your brand becomes. When you have a positive customer experience, you have a powerful brand. That's how brands can go beyond different. Thank you very much.